Hey there, Cutie Patooties. Today I'm going to show you some of the best Mac apps that you are probably not using. You might not have even heard of them, and they're all free. Okay, first up, do you see these two Safari windows? Well, what if I told you that only one of them was a Safari window? This one. Yeah, this window here on the left is an entirely different browser called Orion. Now, if this app looks like Safari, that's because it basically is. It also renders web pages in WebKit rather than Chromium like every other browser. If I go to my tab overview, it looks the same. If I hit the downloads button, it looks the same. If I open a new tab, this looks and feels like Safari. Heck, even tab groups, which were just introduced in the latest version of Safari, those are present in Orion. It is Safari. So then how is it different from Safari? It's different in two really big ways. Number one is that by default, it is the most secure browser out there. It disables tracking and ads by default from the minute you open the browser. Now, you can modify those settings, but that is the standard. The other reason, and the reason that I am so in love with it, is this. If I go to Tools, and then Extensions, and then Manage, look at this. A couple of extensions that are, what? Written in Firefox? Or written for Chrome? That's right. This web browser, Orion, can use plugins from Safari, from Chrome, and from Firefox as if it were nothing, as if they were native. It works remarkably well. Like super, super well. And I've been using this browser for a while. It is fantastic. It feels like Safari. It's just as fast as Safari, but it has the functionality of browsers that are not Safari because Safari is so picky about what it can choose to work with in the extension department. It is fantastic. Now, it's not a version 1.0 yet. It's still in beta, but you should definitely check it out. It's certainly stable enough for day-to-day use. I do keep a couple other browsers around, but I can see a future where Orion is my only go-to. I love it. Unfortunately, we're not yet in a world where we can just use a single browser or where one browser runs every web app perfectly. It's just the reality of the world, and that's where Velja comes in. Velja is a little extension that sits in your menu bar, and you actually use it as your default web browser, but it's not a web browser. All it does is decide where to push links that you open to. For example, if I click this YouTube link, it's going to open in Firefox. And that's because of a plugin that I like using and feel works the best in Firefox called TubeBuddy. And so all my YouTube links open in Firefox. But if I scroll down and open this link from, where's a link? Right here from The Verge, it's going to open in Orion because I want everything else to open in Orion. I can go even further with this. If I hold down a modifier key and press the link that I want to open, it actually asks me what browser I'd like to open that in. Orion, Safari, Chrome, Firefox. Let's open it in Safari. And boom, it will open in Safari. It's pretty amazing what this little simple thing can do. And the reason why you might consider it if you're still not convinced yet is because of a lot of services that tend to perform better in their specific browsers. So for example, if you're sick of Twitter links always opening in the Twitter app, you can choose to open them in a specific browser. If you always want to open YouTube links somewhere, you can do that. If you want to use certain web apps like Google Meet inside of Google Chrome, because that's really the only browser it works super well in, you can do that. You can even set up rules so that you can say anytime I open this domain or this subdomain, open it in this specific browser. It's great for the reality of the world, which is most of us use multiple browsers for multiple things, and Velja is free and it helps you do that. Picture this. You've got a workflow going. You've got a bunch of different apps open. And oh crap, I have a Zoom meeting in 30 seconds. What am I going to do? I've got to clear all this stuff up. I've got to save and make sure stuff. No, you don't have to worry about any of that thanks to a very cool utility called Later. It sits up here in your menu bar, and all you have to do is click it and then press Save Windows for Later. It closes your entire session and holds it for when you're going to need it next. You can then go and open your apps and everything that you need to do. And then when you're ready to restore that user session, you just go back up to the menu bar, you press Restore Session, and boom. You can manage multiple sessions. It can do more than one at a time. And the other thing that is really great about it is if you're on a laptop, you can, say, for example, quit the apps instead of hiding them, where they will relaunch and reopen to the same spot where they were. It's a really cool utility if you need to just clear your desktop, but you don't want to go through and hide everything or quit everything manually. Pretty neat. All right, so picture this. You're trying to gather a bunch of things for a specific task. You either have to open a bunch of Finder windows and then move them all to the destination manually, or you do what I do, which is horrible. I recognize this, and I make like a folder called temp, and I'm like, oh, I need this photo. I'm going to drag this in here. And then I just drag my photos over. This is a stupid way to work, and there is a free app that makes things much, much better. It's called Dropover, and all you have to do is take a file inside of your Finder, and you just wiggle it. And check this out, a little drop zone pops open. I can now move this wherever I want, and it just holds things until I'm ready to act upon them. So I can go into a different folder or the same folder, drag stuff over. They can be images, they can be files, they can be links, they can be text snippets, they can be URLs, or even images that I find from my browser and drag in. You can put basically anything you want into a little dropover zone. And once you've done that, you can either dismiss it and come back to it later. You can manage multiple drop zones at the same time, or, and this is where things get really neat, you can pull up your shelves. This is the one I have with 2 images, and you just right-click it, and it gives you a bunch of options. I can choose to open all of these files. I can show them in the Finder. I can open them with Quick Look without actually launching the specific applications. I can use anything inside of the iOS share sheet, or, and this is where things get really cool, I can upload them to a media hosting service, be iCloud, it can be Dropbox, it can be Google Drive, or even Dropover's own hosting service. I just click copy Dropover link. I can title it Beans. My password is Beans. And I'm going to leave it for 3 months. There's a public link that's a web page, or maybe I don't want a web page. I just want direct download. Let's do a web page. I press share and it uploads. And once that's done, I open the link inside my browser. It opens Dropover's cloud. I enter Beans and boom, those files that I wanted to share are shared just like that. It is amazing that this is a free utility. There is a pro option, and basically all it does is it removes a slight limitation in the free version where after I think like a week, you have to wait a couple seconds before dragging stuff into a zone. It's one of those things where they're like, we want this to be free. How can we get people to pay for it? You could totally get by without paying for it, but you should throw a couple dollars to the developer's way because again, you just pick it up, you drag it, and boom, it's in a zone. It is so, so great for wrangling data before you need to act on it. It's called Drop Zone. Dropover. Okay, get off my back. I've tried Raycast. Raycast has been around for a couple years, and it is by far the most popular app on this list. But every time I make a Mac video, everyone's like, you're going to talk about Raycast. Come on, tell the people about Raycast. I have been using Raycast for a little while now, and I do like it. I've been using a different app called Alfred that does very much the same thing, or similar things, that is. And you can think of Alfred and Raycast as Spotlight, but on crack. They are indispensable to Mac power users. And the reason Raycast has been one that I've never really dived into much is it's very... how should I say this? It's very intimidating relative to something like Alfred. And I've just been using Alfred for years and years and years. It's second nature. I didn't want to try to learn something new. But Raycast does do some stuff that's pretty darn cool, and I want to show you. So on its very rudimentary level, it does everything Spotlight does, right? So I can launch an app like, I don't know, System Preferences. That's a fun one. Or I can do a conversion, 40 euros to US dollars. Oh my gosh. Sucks to be in Europe right now. I can search for files. So I'm going to type Rivian, and I'm going to go to File Search. And check it out. Here's all of the STLs, the 3D printed models that I am using for my Rivian wireless charger. There's a lot of stuff that you can do with Raycast that Spotlight can do, but there is some advanced functionality. For example, I can go into my clipboard history. This manages every URL, every piece of text or image that I have copied. It holds it until I'm ready to act on it, which is really pretty handy. I can also do window management. So if I've got Tweetbot open, I can go over here and say window top left corner. There you go. It's now over there. So it does a lot of things that other apps do. You might not be that impressed yet, and that's understandable. This is what a lot of other similar apps can do. But where Raycast gets powerful is in its free plugins you can get via the store. They call it the store, but to my knowledge, pretty much all of them are free. Let me just give you an example of a few things that I have been using Raycast for. So if I go down to search Notion right here, I can actually find any video that I have done. So Mac Mini We made the Mac Mini actually mini. If I go down to that item, it will load that page that I have in Notion. It's got everything loaded up. It's a fantastic way to go through my Notion database without actually having to get into Notion. Really pretty cool. Now, okay, you don't use Notion because you're not a nerd. What else could you do? Well, let's say I go to today's list. This is inside of things. Oh, I have to confirm something with Andrew. Once I'm done with that, I can just press done and check it out. It's completed. I've never opened Things, my to-do app, at all, yet it's done. That is pretty darn cool. Well, what else can you do? I don't know. You can go to YouTube search. Okay, I'm going to type, I don't know, MKBHD 1 Plus. There's got to be a new one of those, right? What happened to 1 Plus? 1 Plus 10 Pro. I press enter. I can see when it was published. I can see how many views and likes and comments. And if I want to watch it, I just push enter and it opens up in my browser. There are so many extensions. For almost any app or utility you can think of, there is a Raycast extension. It gets really powerful. It's free, so there's no harm in checking it out. And, well, if you've got a little bit of patience and a little bit of willingness to accept a learning curve, it can be very, very powerful. Check it out, Raycast. Everyone knows that the built-in screenshot tool in macOS is pretty good. You press Shift-Command-3 to grab the full screen, or if you want a selection, Shift-Command-4, and then you drag. Or you can push the space bar and then check it out. You just grab this specific window right here. You can draw on it. You can add shapes. Bob's your uncle. This is a pretty powerful tool and it has gotten more powerful over the years. But there are third-party apps out there that do a lot more. The most popular one is CleanShot X, but it's $30, which is quite a hard pill to swallow if you're not taking screenshots every day. Well, there's a new kid on the block and it's free. It's called Shottr. And you invoke it, well, basically the same way you would invoke the regular screenshot tool. I press Shift-Command-2, and now check it out. I've got the same cursor. I push the space bar. I can grab this window, bada boom, bada bing, and it's super cool, eh? Now, what gets even neater about this is that you can, do a lot more powerful things. Of course, all the rudimentary stuff like adding shapes and cropping in and all the stuff you're used to, you can do that. That hasn't changed at all. But there are some cool, new, powerful tools. Some are really nerdy, like this, which is a ruler. So if I push the number 1 button, I can see that there's 220 points in between this top row and this bottom row, or 384 here. What about the space in between the icons? I can go horizontal and 92 pixels, 92 pixels. Isn't that set? 90 pixels? They got to move that over a couple pixels. This is great if you're doing graphic design work, but okay, it's for nerds. I don't care about that. What if I just want to grab something out of a screenshot? Well, hold down the command key and push the thing you want to grab, and it will automatically, intelligently, using AI, decide what to select. Let's say you want a little bit more control and you want to manually select stuff. Well, you just hold down the Option key and drag. See this picture of my wife and I? It's just slowly grabbing more and more and more as I drag over. And now it's selected the name that I've selected, but if I keep going further, it still just selects that name until I get all the way over to the Apple ID, and then it adds that too. Pretty darn neat, but okay, this is still nerdy. I don't care. You're boring me. Well, check this out. Let's say I want to delete these 2 icons. All you got to do is select them, and you push delete. That's it. Now you might be thinking, big whoop, who cares? All you've done is just drag, it's used AI to add a gray box over the top. But check this out. You can actually do it over inconsistent patterns and colors. So these are totally different kinds of gray, but I push delete and they're all gone and you would never know. Look at that. Isn't that freaking awesome? But things get even crazier yet. Let me push this blur tool right here and I can select the whole bottom row and now check it out. It's all blurry. Okay, that's kind of cool, but so what? Well, what if you just want to blur the text and leave the images intact? Done. Isn't that freaking awesome? What if I don't want to erase it, or I don't want to blur it, I just want to get rid of the text altogether? Done. The text is erased. Or you can erase the whole thing. It is so freaking cool what this app can do. It can also get super nerdy with stuff. If you're, for example, you want to use a counter because you're trying to do a multi-step tutorial, you're like, first click here, and then click here. It can do that too. Shottr is so powerful. I have just barely scratched the surface on what it can do, but it is amazing, it is free, and it feels like a native app, and I don't know how much better praise I can give it than that. This next app is one that if you showed it to someone you were on a date with, she would probably leave the restaurant. But if you showed it to your wife, she would say, you know, this is the reason I'm in love with you. It's called ImageOptim, and it is a nerdy little app that I've probably talked about before because I use it just all of the time. But all you have to do is look at any time you've taken a photo and press Command-I. You're going to see that there's a bunch of metadata there. What camera it was taken with, the focal length, the f-stop number, GPS location and data, device-specific hashing. There's a lot of crap contained inside of image files that we don't recognize. And not only can this sometimes invade our privacy if we're distributing over the web, but it also takes up space that's not needed online. Watch this. If I drag this file into ImageOptim, it's just going to strip it of all of that unneeded metadata. It has saved me 16% in my file size by just getting rid of data. It's done no lossy compression at all. The image is exactly the same. It's just removed all the other unneeded stuff. If I press Command-I again, check it out. It's still there. I don't know why. Oh, there we go. Now it's gone. That was a weird Mac OS bug. See, there you go. You can do this to a bunch of different photos in batch. You can also, if you so choose, do lossy compression from inside of here. So I can minify my images. I enable lossy minification. I can choose what the JPEG quality I want is, how much I'm willing to sacrifice in terms of image fidelity. And then I do the same thing. I just drag the images in, it does its thing, and you will be blown away by the quantity of file size reduction that it can get away with in lossy minification. This again is great for the web. I mean, this image is 104 kilobytes. It wasn't a good picture anyway. There you go. 1.4 megabytes. It still looks fantastic and it's half the size that it used to be. But I mostly just use it for stripping metadata. It's called ImageOptim, and if you want your wife to love you again, well, download this app. Earlier, I showed you that Raycast and Alfred both do clipboard management. That is to say, you can copy multiple things and then have a paste history over time. There's a lot of apps that do this. Some are free, some are paid, some are beautiful, some are not. I think one of the best is one of the simplest. It's called CopyClip. Check it out. It's this little paperclip in your menu bar icon. It's not gorgeous. It doesn't try to be. It just keeps track of everything you've copied. And when you want to recopy it, you click it, and there you go. Check it out. It's on your clipboard. That's all you got to do. That's CopyClip. It's free. I don't know why you would need anything else. It's fantastic. If you're not interested in one of the crazy power tools that does clipboard management as well, CopyClip is the best option. It's in the Mac App Store. It's free. Just go get it. Next up, the astute amongst you might have noticed that throughout the course of this video, I've been clicking this cute little chevron that's revealing stuff in my menu bar. This is thanks to an app called Hidden Bar. There are a lot of apps that do this. Bartender is paid. It's by far the most famous. Vanilla is a freemium app. Hidden Bar is completely free, and that's why I like it and choose to use it. It's open source, and it's awesome, and it's super, super simple. So this is how it works. Everything that is right of this little tiny line here is visible all the time. I can still drag my menu bar stuff like I always could, but everything to the right of this is always visible. Now, everything to the left of this little line is only visible once I click that chevron. So it collapses and expands. If I'm sick of seeing cart hop, I just drag it to the left of that little line, and boom, it's gone. Now, there's sometimes some apps that you never, ever, ever want to see. Creative Cloud, I am talking to you. If we right-click the chevron, it will reveal some of these apps that I never, ever want to look at ever again. Let's say that this thing, I don't like this. I want to drag this over, go away forever. If I drag it to the left of this little transparent line, when I recollapse the menu, check it out. It's gone. It's still up there. It's still running. It's still functioning. Poor little Creative Cloud doesn't know we can't see it, but we can't, and that's the way things should be. It's very, very awesome. It's called Hidden Bar, and it's free, and go get it. I like it as much as any other option on the market. Have you ever wanted to just check yourself out? Or maybe you want to make sure that you don't have a boogie, or that no one's coming up behind you with a knife to stab you in the back. Well, a lot of people just use their iPhone's selfie camera for this. And that works, but there's a better way to do it. It's called Hand Mirror. Check it out. It's just here up in my menu bar. If I click it, it turns my webcam on. And if I click it again, it turns my webcam off. If I click it, it turns my webcam on. And if I click it off, it turns my webcam off. That's all it does, but it's a super great way to just check yourself, maybe before you go on a Zoom meeting or whatever. It's way better than opening up like Photo Booth, which is what I think a lot of other people do. It's called Hand Mirror. It's free. It's cute. It's awesome. Look at yourself. You're beautiful. Appreciate what you've got, okay? I think you're fantastic. My screen's a little dim. I'm just going to come in here and boost it up. Yeah, well, guess what? Not everyone's a rich little piece of crap that can afford a studio display or a Pro Display XDR. And sometimes people don't just want to use the built-in brightness control in their MacBook Pro or their iMac because they're using an external monitor. If you are one of those people, there is a very cool little app that does basically the same thing with some wizardry involved. It is called QuickShade, and it is a brightness control for your Mac, but not in the way that you would traditionally think. It doesn't actually change the brightness on your third-party monitor. All it does is it dims the output signal of the HDMI or DisplayPort link that you are sending to that monitor. It's a weird way to get around things, but it does work. If you're working at night and you don't want to blind yourself in the eyes, you should try out QuickShade. It's a pretty cool little app. It's free and it works really well if you're not on an Apple display. Do you know what pisses me off? All these new apps, many of them paid, that are like, oh, we clean your disk, bada boom, bada bing, we have cleared everything up, your RAM is free. They suck. They don't do anything. They don't ask for admin privileges, and so they're very limited in what they can do. They're garbage, okay? There's an app that's been around forever called OnyX, literally forever, 20 plus years. And the people that actually need to verify their file system, the people that actually need to find lost files, the people that actually need to, clean and maintain their disk, they use OnyX. And OnyX is good because you literally cannot open the app without using your admin password. It's fantastic because it actually goes to the disk level to do functions. It's ugly, okay? This is literally the homepage. This is not a bug. They're just like home, and then there's nothing below this bar. It's ridiculous, but it does work really well. I spend most of my time in this maintenance tab, and not only can you verify your file structure, system, and integrity, and delete APFS snapshots, which is very, very handy. But you can also rebuild a lot of stuff that's been corrupted. Like, for example, if Spotlight is acting up, you can force a re-Spotlight index. You can rebuild your mailboxes inside of the Mail app. Just don't use the Mail app anyway. It's a disaster. Or you can go in and clean specific areas of your disk, your system, your applications. You can get rid of cache items and multi-language packs and your junk items. Applications is a fantastic one, particularly because a lot of times people just delete the app and then trash it out. But there's leftover plist files and weird stray. This gets rid of all of them. It's a fantastic little app, and I love it, but it does a lot more than just disk maintenance. You can go into the utilities section and spend a lot of time working with APFS snapshots and making sure that you can verify your file system structure if something weird is going on. I've had a couple times where stuff is just like not working and it's slow and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I come in here and I check it and it's like, we found a thing, and we fixed it. And you're like, oh, okay, great. This is admittedly used less in newer versions of macOS, but back in the day, I was in here all the time because you'd install weird crap and screw stuff up. OnyX would fix it. But I do use OnyX for a couple of other reasons still today. Number one is files. This is a really cool tab. You can choose to hide specific folders, files, and disks if you don't want them to have visibility inside of your file system. But you can also do checksum verification. If you download an operating system or a Raspberry Pi installation image from the web and you want to make sure that it's integral before you write it to disk, OnyX can do that. It does a lot of other cool stuff too. It can do secure deleting and multi-pass deletion. If you throw something in your trash can and just trash the can out inside of macOS, you can still recover that if it really comes down to it. This makes sure that the stuff that you need deleted stays deleted forever. Apple doubles. Have you ever opened it like an exFAT drive or a drive that's FAT32, and there's a bunch of like weird ./trash, ./Apple. Those are called Apple doubles, and it's not a big problem for most modern systems, but sometimes, particularly if you work with PCs and you're updating BIOS files, they hate Apple double files. It freaks them out. So you can come in here and make sure those are all deleted. You can do tons of other cool stuff in OnyX too. One of them, and I use this about once a year, and it's a nightmare every time I need to use it. I hate it, but it does find stuff when I need them to be found. MD-Find is what Spotlight uses. It's the Spotlight index of what's on your disk. And MD-Find does a pretty good job most of the time, but sometimes you've really lost something. You have no idea where it is. Spotlight can't find it. You can't find it in the Finder. Not all hope is lost. If you come in here, you have to rebuild the database, and it takes like a good while, but it scans every single byte on your computer, and then you can find based on the name of the file or the type of the file or the date of creation. It works really, really well when things have all gone down the pooper and you can't find files. Then we go into the parameters section. This enables a lot of settings that are not available in macOS, things that are typically only enabled via the command line. You can do that right here inside of the parameters section. For example, if I want to get rid of window zooming in the Finder, there we go. I've pressed it. It's done. There you go. OnyX can do a lot of cool stuff. It comes in handy all the time, and I really recommend you check it out. It's free. It's been around for 20 years. What more could you want? All right, before I let you go, I do have one more thing. It's called One Thing. You get it? It's up here in my menu bar. Receive cheese car. If you don't follow me on Twitter, you don't know what that means. That's why you should follow me on Twitter. But if I click this, I can change this text to whatever I want. It is a great way to put in a reminder or a task or a to-do item or an inspirational quote to make you feel good. Or I can say, like this video, I push enter, and there you go. It's up there in my menu bar, and it stays there until I change it. So listen to it. It's one thing. I've only asked you one thing. Just do it. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, stay snazzy.